too late. Like a tiger lies in wait when it has me in its mouth. I know I'm about to break.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Carlos. If we haven't met, I need your help real quick. If you could just stand to your feet for me. We're just going to do something. Oh, I really need your help, actually. So yesterday we had our Kick for Kenya 5K to support our Kenya partnerships, and I had no intention of running. I got kind of duped by my wife, who's like, let's run together. I guess that means we're within 3 miles of each other the whole time, because she ran, and I ended up running alone. But I started running, I couldn't stop, because I'm now running. My legs are so sore right now, so you're going to stretch with me. If you just pick your favorite fruit, if you don't mind, reach up with your right hand, pick your favorite fruit, and then lean down and put it in the basket. All right, and then your left hand, whatever, pomegranate, whatever's, get it, bring it down. Okay, you can sit down, thank you. I needed that to get through the next few moments here. Okay, so we're 2 weeks, we're going to have this conversation about modern men, and you might be like, where's this going, or what's this going to be? And as I was prepping for it, I just thought about this moment, and really many moments that occurred in my life growing up, when I was 8, when I was 10, when I was 12. I spent some time with my dad, often summers and weekends, and I had my stepdad in my life when I came into later elementary school, and they would both give me these messages, and they were pretty similar. Somewhere along the way, they were so common and just spoken, I would receive them as like facts. Kind of like you have to get your homework done before dinner, or make sure your room's clean before you go out. There was these times when they would look at me, and in some way or another, they would say, Carlos, act like a man. But they never had to define it. They never had to say, this is what we mean. It was like I knew there wasn't a follow-up question. This is what a man was, right? You were solid, and it didn't hurt unless it bled. That was what I grew up with. This is what you're like, Carlos, stop whining. That's what was the implied piece in it. Keep moving, just handle it. That's what a man does. But they were trying to hand me something real. I understand that. And I don't think they made a mistake. They were doing their very best, but what they were doing was giving me a script for what manhood is. From a young age all the way through, I've had to navigate this, and then I took that script, I put it on, and for a long time I just genuinely assumed that's what a man is. A man is like stoic and solid and doesn't hurt and doesn't show a lot of emotion. And then I'm a dad. I got 4 kids. And we're in Bend, Oregon on a family vacation. We're going on a bike ride to get ice cream. Doesn't this sound idyllic? Like we're on our bikes on the path there. We're going to get ice cream. I'm winning Dad of the Year. And one of my kids jackknifes his handlebars and it hits him in the stomach and knocks the wind out of him. Have you ever had that happen to you? You feel like you're dying. If you haven't had it the first time, if you're like, it doesn't feel like you're dying, you haven't had the wind knocked out of you, okay? Because you're like, oh my life is over, and he's on the ground, he's trying to get his breath, here's the first thing in my mind, he just ruined family ice cream. So he's on the ground, he's going into shock because he's having a near-death experience, okay? And my manhood script has popped up. I've got to teach my son what it means to be a man right now. Hey, kiddo, you need to, it's okay, dust it off, get up, you're fine. My wife is going, he could have internal bleeding. Did you see that? I'm like, he's fine. And we start to have this back and forth. So now I got a kid in shock, 3 kids who just want ice cream, and Emily and I are clearly not agreeing on how to navigate this situation. And the tension rises, and inside of me is this I'm just trying to teach my son what a man is. So we don't get ice cream, spoiler alert. We go back to the place we're staying. There's tension between mom and dad, and I feel like I just need to tell Emily what's what in this situation. She needs to know what I'm about. I said, babe, I'm a dad. My job is to teach my boys how to be men, how to be tough. And I say, and your job is to nurture them. And she's like, no. That's not that clear. It's not that simple. And inside of me, something kind of broke where I'm like, I have no idea what I'm talking about. So that should give you confidence that I'm here today to share this message with you, right? But that was a real turning point for me when I realized, I'm just rolling out an old script I was given. I don't know any other way. And so I'm just going to put it out there and I'm going to go with it. And I've started it really at that point as a little pivotal moment for me to go, what do I do as a dad? What is a man? What do I want to pass on to my boys? And is it just something I inherited and I give it to them and they inherit? And then I started to kind of roll through this. And what if the script I inherited is incomplete? What if there's something better? something more available for the fullness of my life and those around me. So that's what we're going to talk about for 2 weeks. And it can seem a little strange to like do a message series for essentially half the room. Like we're going to talk to the guys, and so ladies, do what you like to do in this moment. But the reality is I just see it a little bit differently. I think, yes, I want to talk to like our guys today. But on the other side of it, I go, we all have men in our lives. We've got like brothers, we've got boys we're raising. So we've got sons, we've got husbands and fathers and bosses and employees and coworkers. And like we intersect all the time. You can't go through life and say, manhood doesn't affect me at all. It affects you all the time. It affects all of us. And so we'll kind of walk out the road, because I think if we have a healthy script and a godly vision of what a man can look like, that's good for our homes. It's good for our schools. It's good for our community, our neighborhoods. It's good for our discourse and our civil. It's good for everything, right? And so I also want to say, though, definitely not a lecture type approach. Like if you take people who know me close, I'm not probably the most qualified guy to do like a guy's conversation for a couple weeks. I'm still always figuring it out. But I am someone who asks questions. I'm someone who wants to follow Jesus and deepen my life and relationship with him. I want to be with him and be like him and do as he would do. And that includes as a father, as a husband, as a man, as a brother, as a son. So I want to ask you a question. We do one on the morning, right? Here it is. Where did you get your definition of what it means to be a man? We all have a definition. We probably haven't necessarily codified it or put it down, but you have one. What is a man? For me, I grew up as like, don't cry. It doesn't hurt. You're okay. Be strong. Like, what was your definition? What is your definition? Share it with the people around you. We'll be back in about a minute, okay? All right, take 10 seconds. So here's my framework on this. I don't want to fall into like cultural stereotypes or tropes. I want to be careful as we walk through this. We want to look at the scripture and see what we can learn. My reality is, in my job, I sit with a lot of men. And we'll talk about all sorts of things. And no one ever walks in my office and goes, I'm here to talk about being a man. It's just conversation comes up. But I found this underlying stream is, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm successful, or I've got a family, or, I've just graduated high school or college. I kind of feel like I've got some sense of direction, but I don't really know what I'm doing. And so I started to think about this and go, well, we all have an idea that we're walking out, and the script can be really different. I'll take some of the normative scripts that some guys might have grown up with, and you've got brothers, people in your life, you've probably seen this, right? For some, it was like, I'll call it athletics. That's a little oversimplified, but your whole life, like manhood, is about sport. Do you watch it on Sunday? Do you watch it on Monday night? Does it drive your life? It's the currency in your family. You were coached. You're now supposed to coach. Everybody played all the time. Like, it's totally tied to what it means to be a man. For others, it's like stoicism. That's like resolute, solid. I don't cry. I don't need anything from anybody. I just handle life quietly. And like, if I show emotion, it looks like failure. Meanwhile, you got kids or friends who are like, just throw me a bone, man. I got to know how you feel, right? But you see that as the value, so you were given that and you hold that in. For some, it was provision, and again, I'm oversimplifying this, but it was this idea that like what I have to do is wrap myself up in my ability to earn, so I can build and I can produce and I can work hard and I can make money and I can take care of something. That's the measurement. For some, I love like some of the swings that have taken place just culturally over time. For some, it's like, it's like nurturing the people in my life. I want to be a great, present, caring, physically affectionate, emotionally attentive dad. I want to give words of affirmation and words it's a complete split from the Stoicism side. And then, of course, there's the like, I didn't have a script. I don't have a script. I don't care for a script. But I would caution you, if you think you're like scriptless in your humanity, I don't know where you're living, but we are shaped by voices, conversations, friendships, experiences. We're shaped. So you have all of these, like you might have been passed something down or seen something passed down in your life, and then the internet comes along, and it says, I'd like to teach you something too. And the internet develops a whole subculture called the manosphere, which is, my perspective, quite largely toxic, but it's trying to answer questions that men are asking. So it exists for a reason. It doesn't exist because no one's asking for it. It exists for a reason. Men are saying, I've got questions. No one seems to want to talk about it. And so where am I going to go? Wherever loud voices are speaking about it. And all I'm trying to say is somebody handed you a script. I was handed a script. We're all handed a script. And if you don't stop and look at it, if you never kind of hold it up and evaluate if it's actually true, or complete or even worth passing on, you will just unexamined lean into it in your life and live it out. And so I think about this, right, as we walk into this. Everything we do here is about following Jesus. That's all of our conversations. It's all of our programs. It's everything we're trying to do. So when I look at this, I go, so if we're going to talk about like modern manhood and modern men, we're going to have to look at Jesus. And then there's a bit of a PR problem because a lot of guys I know, particularly in the church, are like, oh, here it comes. Jesus, like forgiving and gentle and loving and turn the other cheek and kiss your enemy. And so the tone is even there. Like you're going to soft, hard pedal me this soft Jesus that I get it. He's the Savior of the world, but he is so sweet and gentle and meek and mild and soft spoken in his robe. Just the wind blows his robe in the background behind him. And everywhere he goes, what does he have in his arm? Like a baby innocent lamb. And he just walks around. And you're going to say, that's what a man looks like. Well, I think your instinct is right in pushing back against that. So I get sent stuff a lot, and somebody sent me this one author who said it this way. I'll put it in quotes for you on the screen. And I thought, oh, this is a great litmus test to talk about this, to kick this 2-week conversation off with. He said, a harmless man is not a good man. A good man is a dangerous man who has that under voluntary control. And they go on to say the virtue is not in being harmless. The virtue is in the control. I started thinking about this. Okay, I think that this author is onto something. The problem's not that we want strength. The problem is that we've been told that the option of reckless strength is the absence of strength, no strength. Be a man like Jesus. Be powerless. Just die. If you can just do that, if you can pull that off in your life. And I want to put this to the test. Okay, is this person on to something? So what we're going to actually do is we're going to start in the book of Revelation. We're going to look at an account that comes out of this vivid apocalyptic dream. If you're not familiar with the book of Revelation, I want to give you like 30 seconds of context, okay? It is like probably the primary book that's used to scare. That's very scary. If you're not familiar, my first job as a youth pastor. The youth room, they had the junior hires paint scenes from Revelation on the wall. Okay? It was the scariest place I've ever been in my life. I went in there and I'm like, I do not feel comfortable being in here alone right now. Like because it's confusing. It sells a lot of books. Write a book about Revelation and how you understand it, and people gobble that stuff up right away. But here's what you need to know. Revelation's a letter. Before it was this wildly fantastic, hard to decipher, end times-ish apocalypse. It was a letter actually written by John, the follower of Jesus, who was exiled to the island of Patmos. He was on that island. He was basically a political prisoner, exiled, and in his exile, he did some letter writing. And he wrote this letter, Revelation, to 7 real churches. Not hypothetical or metaphor. These are real churches. People, they got the letter. People like you or I, and they read those words of Revelation. Now, what he wrote in was called apocalyptic literature. heavy on symbols, images, and visions. It's often, throughout history, how political dissidents would write about the government so they wouldn't necessarily, like those caught with it, wouldn't be put to death immediately. So there's a little bit of political interplay. If you can look up the history of it, how it plays out. He was writing to these people who are just being persecuted by Rome, and he was giving them hope, and he was giving them like a vision for resistance with this wild imagery. And it says this. We're going to be in Revelation chapter 5. Here's the backstory. John is seeing God reveal his glory through these scrolls that are going to tell what's coming and what's going to happen. And he says that at the right hand of him who sat on the throne, there was a scroll with writing on both sides, and it was sealed with the 7 seals. We're not going to unpack all that. There's just this powerful truth that's waiting to be opened up. And then a mighty angel proclaims in a loud voice, "Who is worthy to open the scroll?" It says, "No one in heaven or on earth or under the earth could open the scroll or even look inside." And then Revelation 4:5 says this, "So I wept. I wept because no one was found who was worthy to open the scroll or look inside. And then one of the elders said to me, 'Don't weep. See, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has triumphed. He's able to open the scroll and its 7 seals.'" And so here's the Apostle John and his vision. You might right now be going, what does this have to do with scripts and manhood? Stay with me. We're going to see where this goes. Nobody in all heaven or all earth has the strength or the power to address this scroll. And John starts weeping because what's in this scroll is necessary for the people to hear. And then one of the elders says, "Don't weep. Look, the Lion of the tribe of Judah has..." You may not know all the significance of the language, but the Lion of the tribe of Judah. The title goes all the way back to Genesis, to the blessing spoke over the tribe of Judah by their father Jacob, and it was like a royal title, and it carries the full weight of power and authority and strength of the king. So there's a lot of significance in this language that's used right here. The conquering king who cannot be stopped. He's going to come. He's going to open the scroll. And then I saw a lamb, looking as if he had been slain, standing at the center of the throne. And the Lamb goes on to open the scroll. I thought, that's a great place to talk about what it looks like to be a man. Jesus Christ and all his power, all his strength, all his glory, all his kingship, resurrected from the dead. The only one who can open the scroll. Of course, it goes with the message. Yes, that's supposed to be the one. And then Jesus shows up. But the Lion of Judah, when he shows up, he bears the marks of having been killed, and he's essentially a wounded, slaughtered lamb. Same person. So note that. The announcement is that a lion will come. And when John looks, it's a lamb that arrives. And I don't see a contradiction. What I see is the one who has the authority and the power of the lion is the one who comes who chose to come as a lamb. I think that decision, we're going to explore that for a few minutes. Because the lamb did not replace the lion. Yeah, it's not like, I was wrong. I was wrong about the lion. The lamb didn't replace the lion. The lamb was the lion's greatest act. As John unfolds that story. This isn't a new idea. We're going to go back to Jesus as he's walking and teaching and healing the sick and announcing his kingdom. Jesus starts to talk about the end of his life, that he's going to be betrayed, that he's going to be persecuted, that he's going to be put to death. And his followers are kind of struggling with this. And at one point in John chapter 10, verse 18, Jesus says something that makes that moment in Revelation chapter 5 understandable. He says, "I want you to understand about me. No one takes my life from me. I lay it down of my own accord. I have the authority to lay it down, and I have authority to take it up again." I want to read that again. No one takes my life from me, Jesus says. I actually lay it down of my own accord. I have authority to lay it down. I have authority to take it up again. So Jesus is standing there fully aware of what's coming and telling anyone who will listen that he's not a victim. And that he actually has the strength to stop what's coming. He could, but he doesn't. And you just sit in that for a second. I mean, every Easter, Christmas, these are great. I love gathering together with our church and celebrating the resurrection of Jesus. And the story is kind of like Jesus got betrayed and everybody turned against him, and it's sad and it's heartbreaking. But if we also pull back a little bit and we think about, okay, the Romans arrested him, the crowd turned on him. It was like Pilate had the call. Do you remember the interaction between Jesus and Pilate? If you don't, it's really straightforward. Pilate goes, Pilate's a Roman governor. He says, Jesus, I have the power to set you free. And Jesus looks at him. Jesus has thorn of crowns in his head, beaten beyond recognition. Out of his bloodied mouth, he says, you don't have any power to do anything except what you're allowed to do by me and my Father. Jesus lets it all happen because that's what the meek and mild Jesus does. Now, I want to explore that for a second. The text says that he had authority. The Bible says that he chose. There's another scene that happens. It happens a little bit later. Jesus is in the garden praying, and the soldiers arrive with Judas for that betrayal kiss. Judas announces who he is by kissing Jesus on the cheek, which was a common brotherly greeting. And the soldiers jump in, and Peter, one of Jesus' disciples, he draws his sword. He takes the strength he has, he draws it, and he goes, I'm going to go down in flames right now. This movement's not going to stop. And he strikes a guard named Malchus in the ear, and Malchus loses his ear, and Jesus says, way to go, Peter, swing again. No, Jesus actually goes, whoa, time out. He says, do you think I cannot call on my Father, and he will not at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? It's like, Peter, you missed the point. I am full of strength. I am the lion. But I decide what I'm going to do with that. And right now, I've decided to lay it down. A legion was 5,000 to 6,000 soldiers. So Jesus says, I've got 12 legions of angels. I'm not going to do the math publicly. It always gets embarrassing when I do that. But it's tens of thousands. And we start to see that Jesus is not weak. He decided. And the reason he decided to lay down his authority rather than use it, the reason he decided to use his strength as sacrifice rather than manifested as power, Paul talks about to the church in Philippi. The letters to the churches are letters to followers of Jesus trying to figure out what it means to live this new life. Philippians chapter 2, he writes to them. It's a really, really rich passage. 2:5-8, he says. So everybody please listen to this text. But this is 2 weeks talking to our guys. And so, men, there's a lot of voices in your head. There's a lot of people in culture and in your life kind of telling you what you need to do. If it doesn't sound like this, it's secondary. Because this is the word of God to us about how we are supposed to carry ourselves in your relationships with one another. Have the same mindset. That's why I started by showing you Revelation and John and working our way to the Garden of Gethsemane. Have the same mindset as Christ Jesus, who being in the very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Other translations might say grasped or clung to. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness and being found in appearance as a man. He humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on the cross. I just want to pull that one phrase. Jesus did not consider equality with God something to be used to his advantage. The full weight of who Jesus was and what he had access to, he didn't bring to the table to protect himself or to exempt himself or to get what he even deserved. His power was real, and he chose not to leverage it for himself. I wish growing up that the men in my life had said, hey, Carlos, when you grow up, make sure you have power. You cultivate strength in your life. You cultivate mental strength and emotional strength and physical strength. And make sure you do, but don't leverage it for you. Don't use it for yourself. See, when you have power and it's real and you don't leverage it for yourself, this isn't weakness. It's like an extreme form of self-control. And self-control is we need more of it everywhere. It's actually like the word meek. Anyone get excited about meek? Like that idea? Maybe someone's told you to. No one has ever told me I should be more meek. Maybe that's not a compliment. It's an interesting word. sometimes we check out when we hear it because we go, there it is again, the Jesus, the soft Jesus, here comes the meek. Like when somebody strikes me on one cheek, I'm supposed to turn the other cheek. And then when they strike that cheek, I'm supposed to say, thank you for letting me be like Jesus and give him my other two cheeks or whatever, right? Like I'm just supposed to let them just, whatever you wanted. And I think about meek and I go, it sounds so mousy and spineless. But the language is strong. I mean, meek is not. If we think meek is a soft quality, it's we who misunderstand it. In the Greek, praus is a strong word. There's some teaching that goes around. It's really popular right now, but it's been around scholarship for a long time. It's not entirely accurate, but I want to share it with you anyways because the heart of it is accurate. The teaching essentially is that praus was the word used for the training of war horses. So a soldier's war horse was meek. And the idea was that the animal had enormous strength, capable of doing damage, but that it was brought under control by its rider. So it wasn't weak, it was powerful and disciplined. That's a compelling picture of weakness. But if you trace it through like entomology, it dies off before you can really prove it. But it's not wrong. Because you saw it in Jesus. Like Peter draws a sword and Jesus is like, you think I've got legions of armies at my disposal. I've got power. It's just under control. Meek doesn't mean no strength. It means strength under control. This is the quality of a good man. You cultivate strength, and it's under control. Whether you're a spouse, whether you are an employee, you're an employer, how you handle yourself as a parent and a friend and a brother and a son. It's this idea that those who have swords and know how to use them, but they keep them sheathed. So in Jesus, in the teaching on the Mount, this is like the core ethical teaching of Jesus. It has the blessed bees. He said, blessed are the meek. It's really interesting. Like their inheritance is like, it's the earth. The meek, there's a gift to the meek. But he's not describing someone who's never developed strength. I mean, the leading rise up sect of people was the Zionists. They were the Zealots. Excuse me. The Zealots were intense about overthrowing Rome by violence. They had a very compelling case. Have you seen how Rome treats us? So the argument that you should take up swords and put Rome to death with the sword of their neck was compelling. And Jesus knows that his crowds, they like the Zealots. And he says, blessed are the meek. And he doesn't mean those who just lay down and say, Rome, do what you want. Those who have developed their strength and they've put it under voluntary control. Paul, remember, he said Jesus made himself nothing, taking the form of a servant. So the one who could have called down 70,000 angels is the same one who was on his knees washing his friend's feet the night he was betrayed. So we find that Jesus doesn't lose, or he doesn't get overpowered, or he doesn't get overcome. He decides. He's the lion that laid down as the lamb. And that single act changed everything. That's the act of history for you, for me. So I don't know. I want to talk to the guys for a moment. Here's the thing. And again, I'm trying to avoid cultural tropes, stereotypes. I know that can be difficult to do in any conversation that says, I'm going to talk to one group of people. If there's a guy in your life, first of all, he's not doing as great as you think he is. The data tells us that. Loneliness, insecurities, fear of failure. Guys that come in my office, they're all ages, all different. We just talk about life. And there's these challenges of like, I'm just trying to figure out, they don't say this, but what it means to be a man. Whatever that season of life is for me. And I have no idea. I'm afraid I'm too strong. I'm afraid I'm too weak. I'm afraid I'm too aggressive. I'm afraid I'm too passive. I don't know if I'm supposed to make money or give money away. Am I supposed to stand up and fight or lay down and die? And it's like, they don't say it, but it's all there. And then the men in your life, men in this room, men, we are largely lonely. I mean, male friendships are female friendships are complicated, but I'm speaking adjacent. Male friendships are hard. Do you even have them? You have men in your life, but do you have friendships? So guys wrestle with this. They want this. They're made for it. They desire this connection. And I think the downside of this is so we start overcompensating. Because we know the feeling of wanting to leverage what we have to do good. The power we have, we want to use it, right? For something. We want to protect the status that we've built up over our lives. If we're disrespected, we want to respond. How do I respond to that? In my marriage? How do I respond to that out in town? Like, the lion in you is real. And I'm not telling you to bury that. That drive to protect, to lead, to pursue, to build, to compete, to provide, that drive that's in many men, and it's not unique to men, but I'll tell you, if we pin the men down, it's very strong in the men in your lives. That's not a problem to be managed. It's part of you. And so the challenge is this. It's not whether you have the lion, it's what is the lion in service of. Because here's the danger. When the lion is in service of the self, of you, when your strength's pointed inward, it starts to hollow out everything it touches. And things get colder. Dads, your kids learn how to manage you instead of trust you. It's not a great place to be, right? You might even become more impressive, but you're not known, and that's the great tension you feel. You're like, I'm finally impressive. Nobody knows me. But when the lion serves as the lamb in the way of Jesus, that's something entirely different. So I want to leave you, with the image we started with, Jesus. Who can open the scroll? Well, the Lion of Judah, the King, the one with infinite strength and infinite power. And then the Lamb steps forward and takes the scroll. And then you know what happens? It says all of heaven erupts. Thousands upon thousands of voices start singing. 24 elders fall down in worship. Every creature in heaven and earth joins in. That's what happens when the wounded lamb touches the scroll. Because they all recognize what happened. The lamb didn't show up despite the lion, like, you all got it wrong. The lamb showed up. That was the lion's greatest act. The sacrifice was the victory. So 2 weeks. Here's the challenge. You have a definition in your life. And the men around you have a definition in their life of what was handed to them. And I would just say, I had to walk through this. Was I able to lay that down and allow Jesus to rebuild something? It's hard to do, especially if you really respect the scripts you've been given. I had to ask myself, am I man enough to serve? Am I strong enough to choose the people around me over my own advantage? And so next week, Dee will pick this up and kind of take us one more step. It's just 2 weeks we're going to talk about this. But I want to end with something for you to think about. What is one situation in your life? And my wife this morning, who's not a man, said to me, I'm going to take good notes and put this under your pillow. That's what she said to me. So, babe, this is what you should put under my pillow. What is one situation in your life right now where the lion in you wants to take over? What would it look like to show up as the lamb instead? I'll give you a moment to think on that, to reflect on the conversation about Jesus, and then we'll sing together.
I remember that long cold night, how dark it was. Heart broke, blinds closed, didn't even want to see the sun. No. Like a refugee with nowhere to run. Eyes in my mind held me hostage like a loaded gun, telling me I had no one, was no one. God, I was too prideful to pick up.